recently had the opportunity to travel to Egypt with my husband and visit my best friend who lives in Cairo. I knew it would be such an amazing, adventurous, bucket list type of trip that I didn't want to miss the chance to draw from life. Who knows if I'll ever go back to Egypt, so this might be my only chance to sketch the pyramids and the Sphinx and Abu Simbel, among other things. So apologies that it's a little hard to see what I'm doing right here. The sun was so bright and the footage got a little overexposed, but I'll show you more of what I'm doing in just a second. The small watercolor palette I brought with me was absolutely perfect for this trip. The heat was real, and watercolors aren't bothered by the heat, thankfully. So it's super easy to reactivate them with water, and this water brush that I'm using right here also worked really great. It's not quite enough water that's inside of the handle to rinse the brush part when you're wanting to change colors, but I did have a little old medicine bottle that's super small and it's watertight. The lid just screws on really easily, and so it was really easy for me to carry all of these supplies around in my backpack. I couldn't quite fit everything on the page here, so the far left pyramid really isn't that close to the other two, just FYI, but I did want to include it on my page just because this was my chance to draw these pyramids from life, and I know that I'll always have this really special memory, and thankfully we were at a restaurant that had this little gazing area with cushions, and so you want to find a place to sit and draw that's comfortable and that you're not going to be, you know, kind of in anybody's way, and that you can really sit there for at least 30 minutes, you know, and sketch out what you're seeing before your eyes. And so this is the final piece that I ended up with, and I was really liking just how it turned out. From there we walked over to see the Sphinx, and unfortunately the sun was setting behind the Sphinx, so you're seeing a lot of shadows on his face in the footage, but in person it was really no problem. I was able to see well, and there were plenty of places around the pyramids where it was comfortable to sit and sketch. And so when you're out in the sun like this, just make sure to wear sunscreen and drink plenty of water. I felt fully prepared being out in the desert like that, but it was hot. So a few days later we visited Abu Simbel in the south of Egypt, and it was incredible. So incredible. We had time to like walk around inside and explore, you know, inside the tomb, so I didn't miss anything, but I wanted to save our last 30 minutes to sit in the shade and sketch the majestic tombs that I saw before me, because who knows if I'll ever have this opportunity again. And it was just so incredible and so surreal that, again, I took tons of photos. Believe me, I have a gazillion photos from our trip, but being able to have this in a sketchbook is just really super special. So I want to encourage you to definitely take your art supplies when you are traveling, whether you're going on a family vacation, if you're going to the beach, or if you're going somewhere really adventurous that you've always wanted to go. Then, you know, just being able to have those memories sketched out in your sketchbook is just really special and something that you'll always have. The nice thing about working in watercolor is that you can build up layers of paint as long as you work from light to dark. You can always do an initial sketch in pencil, but I really didn't find that necessary because I just simply started out by mapping out the large shapes of the tomb first across my 2 pages in a really thin layer of watercolor, like a gesture sketch. And from there, I just built up the sketch by using darker colors and adding more details on top. So if you're working in watercolor and you're traveling with your sketchbook, then I definitely recommend this method, as it's just fast and you don't have to worry about erasing any kind of initial gesture sketches from your pencil. From there, we explored more all over Luxor and eventually made it to Dahab on the Sinai Peninsula. So we were at the Red Sea, and this was kind of more the vacation end of our trip, but it was a super inspiring like Airbnb place that we stayed at, and it was just so incredible because it was right on the sea, so you can walk out and just see it. And so of course I was super inspired to paint in my sketchbook while we were there. Our Airbnb had lots of really cool places to sit and sketch, and it was just super comfortable. From there we found this really cool restaurant that again just had really nice seating, and I went back through some footage that I had taken on my iPhone, so apologies it's not like the best quality. But what I found is that when you are traveling, you should record on video in slow motion. And from there you can stop and, really get a lot of great scenes from the car. So this was all filmed from the car using my iPhone in slow motion. And so it's so nice for me to be able to go back and really get the real Egypt and see, what we were seeing from Aswan to Luxor. So going back to this little clip right here with this doorway, this was my favorite little scene that I ended up sketching in my watercolor sketchbook when we were, in Dahab. But from there I wanted to, paint from life as well. So you can always go back and look at reference footage or reference video like I had in slow motion, or you can paint from life. So this is the little boat that I was sketching from life at the restaurant, and that was the second painting that I did. And you'll see here that I did end up kind of sketching out the scene with some pencil first, and you can go back and do that if you wish, or you can just paint directly on the page. Because things were moving around in front of me, I kind of wanted to capture really quickly in pencil, these boats and the scene in front of me. So that's what I ended up doing and just filled it in. Here is a beach chair that was right in front of me as well, so that was something kind of static that I could focus on, and I'm just filling it in with this darker color on top of the initial kind of light colors that I used for the sand and the water. So as long as you are going, with dark over light, then that's not a problem in watercolor. You can still do that. I have another video about drawing from life over on my YouTube channel, and I also have a Skillshare class about drawing from life, so be sure to check those out. In my YouTube video, I do go over all of the supplies that I use when I draw from life, and so if you're interested in what kind of art supplies I brought with me and what I'm using, feel free to check out that video. I ended up bringing probably more art supplies than I needed on this trip, but what I really ended up using the most was these watercolors. And here is the final sketch that you can see that I drew right in front of me. And I just love the way it turned out. It's just special and it's something that I'll always remember. So after that, I was ready to get in the water and kind of play and put my art supplies down for a minute. From there we went back to Cairo and found this really cool little coffee shop where we were able to get coffee, and my husband was able to read for a little while, and I filmed this on my iPhone so it's going to be more vertical. And I was able to kind of draw and sketch, and I was able to go back through all the footage on my phone and really get inspired by all the things we saw in museums, all the pictures that I took, whether it was kind of more pattern based or more scenery based. My goal for this trip was to create some kind of pattern collection or fabric collection from all the inspirations that I saw in Egypt, and so that's something that I'm still working on. And I just had a baby, so I'm not quite sure when I'll be able to finish this collection, but it is something that I'm excited about and working on. So, not everything that I'm drawing here will end up being used, but it is kind of nice just to go back through and see what I was being inspired by while we were in Egypt. I think one of my biggest things that I struggled with was color palette, because obviously with these Posca pens they come in set colors, so I'm kind of limited to using those. And I love the way this color palette's looking together on this page. I love the blues, but it is like a desert vacation, and so I didn't want to have too many blues because it just feels so watery. And so that was something that I kind of struggled with. It's like, do I use blue in this collection, or do I keep it really sandy and really dry and more like hot colors? But as I'm just playing in my sketchbook, you can kind of do whatever you want.